welcome to another episode of Confidence Culture Conversations. We have been on a bit of a break, but we are back now. So I'm excited to get started in this conversation and see what everyone has to say today. So I'm Elizabeth Olujimi, aka the Thriving Coach.
And my name,
And my co-host
ooh,
is
sorry, I lost you for a bit. And my name is Kirubai Kahut, the transformational coach inside and out. And both of us are happy to be here after a couple of breaks. And yeah, the
absolutely.
kids are having a break. Why not us, the adults, have a break with the kids?
It's much needed and it's necessary. So
Yes. So Elizabeth, so what have you been doing this last couple of weeks? I know you've been busy and really busy seeing on social media, and even I have jumped on the challenge, but I have been naughty. Well, I have an excuse.
well, do
Yeah.
you have
Yes.
an excuse?
But you know what? I have been not on Facebook. Facebook has been hacked, but I have been on TikTok and Insta. But I have to say, I've been naughty. I've not been doing my videos. So I need a little spanking.
Okay, well, I'll leave that to you.
But I've been posting. I've been posting, and having that challenge is, it gets you sorted every day. You post something with regards to whatever that's part of our daily walk, and it's been good.
Yeah, no, that's the key. And to be honest, with the social media visibility challenge, the Shop and Shine challenge, it is more to get people showing up consistently on social media. So whether that's with video or with content, it's entirely up to you, whatever works for you. But it's been amazing. I'm excited for the women that are on there and the amazing things that they are doing. Some people have gone from no video at all to having videos now, and their confidence is growing. So I'm over the moon, and I am literally on the verge of starting to announce the September opening. So, anyone that's watching now and you're a Christian woman who wants to start showing up consistently on social media, send me a DM.
Yes, jump on this, show up and shine, and you will shine. And it's time for us Christian women to rise up and shine because we carry the light and we have to show our light through our posting, through our blogs, through making a statement in whatever social media we want to, but making a difference, making a statement for God.
Absolutely.
So, besides that, showing up and shining, have you been doing something interesting?
So I've got that going on, and no, do you know what? This week and last week has been about me spending time with family.
Hmm.
So yes, I am doing the coaching, but I'm also, doing finding time to spend with family because my daughter's on holiday. So I can't be working 24/7. I have to
Yeah.
have time for her. So I've been in Bristol since about last week. So it's been a week now, actually. So it's
Oh,
been
okay.
nice to just, last week we went on a bit of a tour or a little bit of a mini cruise on the Bristol Harbour side just to, do a bit more history on Bristol. So it's been nice. And then we spent some time out in nature as well. So
Mhm.
it's been really good. And for me, I'm just excited because I think this month or this season is more like a time of recharging a little and then firing on in September. So as kids go back to school, I'm firing on as well. So I've joined the Women Arise International movement as well. So coming up in September, October, November, and December, they'll be doing daily prayer. And so I'm going to be leading some of the prayers there as well. So
Great.
yeah, I've got different things going on, but it's all
Mhm.
good.
Well, I mean, on my side, I've been just being at home, sorting out things in summer, as it in renovations and hands are full when you have workers and people in the house. But you know what? I have been doing a lot of online coaching,
Mm-hmm.
So some good results have come forth, and that's exciting. And seeing people's lives being transformed gives me great joy. And
Awesome.
yeah, and it has been excellent. And Elizabeth and I did a presentation yesterday in India, and probably it was very wrong of me not to do a little bit of research. But actually, this school, they have the school in the city and also in the countryside. So we actually spoke to the school in the countryside where it's a little bit more rural. So I after our presentation, and we did get a good feedback. But you know what, they were, I think one of the things was, the young people were a little taken aback because we had to do it in English. Language was a biggest barrier, but the gist of it they did get. And the principal got back to me, which was lovely. And they are a school run by the um, diocese.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a diocese where they call it the CSI diocese. And I thank God that we could get to speak to these young people, the 70 men and women who are the future generation of that country. I mean, that particular district. And it was good. But even though there was a little gap, language gap, but I think we did the best. Elizabeth, thank you for coming on board and touching lives, because I think our spoken words have life.
Hmm.
So I'm sure you prayed, and I'm sure, I'm sure the principal, who is a Christian, she prayed about this, and the lady organized it. We believe that it's fallen on fertile soil.
Hmm.
So I thank God for that. We do not know how we will touch these young future leaders, their life. And we have a little Janaya here. Say hello, little Janaya. Oh, she's gone. She's starting young to have this confidence culture conversations. Why not? Young children, they start young. Out of the mouth of babes will come out perfected praise.
There
So
you
yeah,
go.
yeah, indeed. So we did have a good time, and waiting for more positive feedback. And me trying to speak in Tamil, that was a challenge.
But you did well.
But
You
you don't know
nailed
that
it.
I spoke, Elizabeth.
I believed every word of what you were saying. I was like, go Kirubai.
It's a challenge for me, because spoken language, presentation language is completely different from spoken language. But you know what, I thank God that I got through. And I think I need to practice. If I'm going to speak to Tamil speaking people, I need to practice more. But you know what, that was a good, I thank God that door opened. And we'll wait for more doors to open.
Absolutely. But you know what? I think you did well, and like you say, that there's a difference between presenting in a language and speaking the language.
Yeah.
And it can be a little bit more challenging to present in it.
Daunting, not challenging, daunting.
You did well. Like honestly, you did well. From my perspective. So you didn't fumble. You just went for it.
I went for it. And you know something, that school is actually from the village my great grandparents came.
Oh wow.
So I did say that, my origins were from there. And well, I mean, this is a fault of mine. I should have been a little bit more diligent, because when I Googled, I saw the city school. They have it in the city, and they also have it in the country. But you know what? When I go to India, I will visit them.
So today we're talking about like being able to lead yourself, right?
Yes, that's
And
right.
part of being able to lead yourself is being able to evaluate yourself and
Uh-huh.
evaluate your actions. And I like what you're saying, like you're owning up to it and saying, like, this is what I did and this is what I should have done. And
Yes.
that's part of good. That's an example of
Yeah.
leading yourself,
Yeah.
because it's easy to go the route where you don't take ownership and you don't take responsibility, but
Hmm.
you're taking ownership and you're even telling yourself, next time this will be different. So
Yeah.
learning from I don't want to call it failures, but learning from mistakes, let's put it that way, learning from mistakes or things that don't go as well as we want them to.
Yeah.
And that's always important in the journey of self leadership. It's good to learn from the things that you are going through, the things that you have experienced, being able to evaluate yourself, whether it's on a daily basis, a weekly basis, a monthly basis, or even just after, whether it's an event, being able to look back on yourself and say, okay, so what could I have done better? And the
Hmm.
purpose of looking back is not just to critique yourself, but it's to see how you can do better, and it's also to celebrate yourself.
Yes. Well said, and I like the way you plugged into our topic today. Well done, Elizabeth. And that's the grace that God has given you. We always plug in any which way but makes sense, you know. And definitely I will own up and I have to be more diligent and do my research, as I would put it. So today, as we speak about the topic, the toughest person to lead is always ourselves. And this comes from this book. You know, we're doing a series on this book. It's John Maxwell's Leadership Goal, which is a good book, which has got a very in-depth personal leadership, how you lead yourself personally. And it's simple, and yet there's a lot of clarity. And people like us, even as we are, we are coaches. And for those who do not know, Elizabeth and I are both have been trained by John C. Maxwell, and we are part of the team. So we are proud to say we are part of the John Maxwell's team, which has brought a lot of in-depth leadership training, self-leadership training. And of course, we have also failed in some of the um, things that we have done. So going back to our topic, so I'm sure you believe that, we ourselves are the toughest person to train, because we always, as coaches and as mentors, we are always looking into somebody else's life, but you know what, who's looking into our lives? So that's the point that we always need to think about, because when we say that we are looking into someone else's life, but there are people incognito looking into our lives and saying we are walking the talk. So,
Mhm.
as Elizabeth says, being taking ownership of our mistakes is one of those things that, as self leadership people who are leaders who lead others, have to take ownership of their own mistakes and leading their mistakes from mistakes to positivity. So so as I was reading the book, and lots of people in leadership, even John Maxwell, King David in the Bible, and some leaders, global leaders like the past George Washington, Winston Churchill, they did make mistakes.
Mm.
They did make mistakes, and making mistakes is part and parcel of our growing. And when we don't stop and reflect and think of these mistakes, then we are be, we are we think we are beyond reproach, which we are not.
Mm.
And I always remember my mom says, if you point your finger at one person, there's other three fingers pointing at you. So we got to be very, very wise. So what can have an effect in how you lead yourself? So some of the things that the book talks about is when you have personal changes, it has sometimes a negative effect on our lives. A season of change can be very uncertain, and then you will be very maybe you are mixed. Maybe you have mixed feelings. Maybe you feel unsettling because there might be a route that you are taking for a season, but the route might change.
Mm,
So it is very unsettling, and this can affect the way we lead other people because you are yourself in a point of confusion. So how are you going to lead yourself and then lead others? Good leaders lead others. Don't you think so, Elizabeth? Like now you're doing show up and shine, and every day you're posting a video and you're talking about it vehemently. So you're leading us who are part of the challenge to go on and say, come on, do that video, put that post, write that blog. But you know what? If you are not in a state of rest, there's uncertainty in you. How are you going to lead yourself and lead others?
mm,
So this is a point that I thought it resonates with me sometimes because sometimes I can get a bit flustered. Like now, the whole house is in turmoil. I can't think straight. Dust everywhere, dirt everywhere. Try to clean, I can't. But you know what? For me, order is very important.
mm,
And I'm having workers walk through here, there. I told them, please, I'm doing a live. Don't come. And they cannot understand why is this lady all locked up in this little room. But you know what? It's still uncertainty for me.
mm,
So it kind of shakes the. This is what this drives me to the second point. I lack focus and vision. I lose my focus because there's so much of chaos around me. And change sometimes shakes you up shakes you up, and it brings chaos. Don't you think so, Elizabeth? What is your thoughts about it?
It's interesting because as you were talking, I was reminded of an article that I wrote sometime last year or the year before, and it
Mm-hmm.
was about being able to embrace change.
Mm-hmm.
And it was from the perspective that change is always going to happen, whether you like it or not, change will happen. And so it's about you as an individual developing the attitude where you are able to embrace change. So you know change is going to happen at some point. And the reality of life is that sometimes change is good and sometimes it's not so great. There's change that we bring on ourselves, and there's change that impacts us. And in that article I actually mentioned about, for example, change when a loved one passes away. That
Mm-hmm.
is that you're forced into a period or a cycle of change because
Mm-hmm.
you lose a loved one. So
Mm-hmm.
things like that can happen, but as an individual, do you adapt to change?
Mm-hmm.
How well do you adapt to change? And every leader has to be able to adapt to change. For example, use the scenario of COVID. When COVID hit, every leader, like everyone who was leading an organization, look at governmental leaders, they had to try and adapt to
Mm-hmm.
the. It wasn't a change that we had put on ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We had to change because of a national disaster that was going on, if I put it that way.
Yeah.
It was the pandemic, it came upon us. So you have to be somebody who adapts to change, like you're resilient, you're quick on your feet, and
Think
you
think
don't
on your feet.
yeah, you think on your feet and you don't get stuck in a place of,
Right.
oh, I don't want change. Oh, I remember a few years ago, I used to work when I worked in a law firm. There was a gentleman I worked with, and he had been doing this job for, I think, about 10 years. And it was for me a very mundane job. And
Mm.
this guy is not somebody who is he's sharp. He's mentally sharp. But I used to wonder why hasn't he tried to, improve himself, get better? Because at some point I went and searched for qualifications that I could convince my managers to pay
Mm.
for me to be better in my role. And I remember bringing them to my manager, and my manager was like, "Oh, this is amazing." And he was like, "But why hasn't this other guy who's been here longer than you brought this to me, and I said, well, I don't know, that's him, right? But what I came to realize was that he doesn't like change.
Uh,
There were a lot of things that he was very, I don't know if pedantic is the word.
pedantic, pedantic,
Yeah,
yes.
there were a lot of things he was very, he was stuck in his ways,
Mm,
and he didn't want change.
mm,
So for him, like, he was comfortable.
yeah.
So if you are going to lead, whether it's lead people or lead yourself effectively and successfully, then you have to be a leader who embraces change. You
Mm,
have to be a leader who can navigate through cycles of change,
mm,
because those cycles are inevitably going to happen, whether you like it or not, whether you accept it or you don't accept it. Things are going to happen around you, things that you have control of and things that you don't have control of. Now, there is change that we can control. Change
mm,
that we can control looks like, I'm tired of where my life is today. I want to do better. I want to see better. I'm going to get a coach. I'm going to get a mentor because I want better. That's change. That's change that you need to embrace. Change that you need to look for yourself. Don't wait for it to be forced on you. Like when you are in the worst of life and you're desperate, and then you have no other choice. Because we get to that stage, some of us get to that
mm,
stage of complete desperation,
mm.
and you're forced to change.
But by saying that, Elizabeth, sometimes when you're pushed to the corner, when you're pushed to the corner, you will have to embrace that change that will affect the way you lead yourself. Because sometimes we are just bogged down with, making bogged down with overloaded. No, for instance, if you're working in a 9 to 5 job, and nowadays 9 to 5 jobs are not 9 to 5, because you might be having to do two other three other persons job, because they don't want to spread the cost to everyone. They might, management is such these days. So sometimes you can be so overworked, and then your work life balance is not there, and this affects the way you lead yourself, because when your work life balance is in a mess,
Mm,
so who gets affected? Your spouse, your family, your children, or if you are not married, your parents, maybe your social life, your friends. They don't see you at all. You don't see, because you're forced into the corner to work, 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 and overwork. So inevitably you have to stop, check, and say, I need the change. But you find it difficult to want to make the change, because you are stuck in your own ways, your rut.
mm,
So these things can affect the way we lead ourselves. Fear of failing to do this new thing. But you know what, Elizabeth, I thank God you and I, we left whatever we did before, and we enjoy what we're doing now, right?
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. But like you're saying, I think it's an interesting one, because they say, how can you lead if you can't lead yourself? How can you lead others if you
Hmm.
can't lead yourself?
Hmm.
And I think that's a very good point, because how can you expect people to follow you if you're not leading yourself?
Hmm.
It's kind of going to be like the saying, how can the blind lead the blind? You fall in a ditch, literally. So it's important that even as leaders, and I think just looking back to something that John Maxwell says about the law of the lead,
Hmm.
leaders are capping the growth of an organization. So if
Hmm.
the leader is not leading themselves into a space of growing, then they're capping the organization, they're capping the community, whoever it is that they're leading, because they're not growing themselves.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, because as I talk about it now, one of the things that I'm reminded of, for example, if you look at some organizations where you have people in leadership, who are old, if I use the word, or people who are used to doing things in the old way. And Nowadays, things have changed, systems are different. If the leader themselves doesn't embrace or doesn't open their eyes to the fact that ways of doing things have changed. So for example, you have organizations where, the top leadership might be, of another generation. And
You're
nowadays,
putting it too kindly.
social media, I'm trying to be nice. Nowadays, social media is one of the ways to market your product, your service. And so it can seem very confusing to people from the older generation, because they're not sure how to like apply it or how to use it. It's still a bit like, how does this work? So it's an interesting one, and therein is like a situation where change has to happen, like especially if it's change for the better, if it's something that's good for you, because there are some people who are so stuck in their ways that they don't want any change. They're like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But sometimes you don't have to wait for it to break before you fix it. Sometimes it can be more productive when you fix it.
you are the you are the you are the worst enemy for you are your worst enemy.
Mm.
So, oh, there we go. We have Pastor Tunji commenting. So, you are your worst enemy. Sometimes this is what happens to, like you say, people of a different generation running an organization. I know where you're going with this because this is what I hear in the grapevine, because they are stuck in a time warps. They're stuck, and then when things are so status quo, you can't have young blood coming in. You can't usher in the young blood who want to be part of the bigger organization. But you know what? If you have all our grandmas and aunties who are not not moving on, how are you going to fit in? So, Elizabeth, I understand.
You know, I'm smiling to myself because there's an example that comes to mind. One time I was in a church leadership meeting, and we were talking about, so there was something Dr. Mensa Otabil started talking about in his church in Ghana. And he was talking about being able to have a 20-year plan.
Mm,
And it was like, whoa, 20-year plan. And he said, look around the room. And he literally asked at that point in time, I think he asked for people below a certain age to stand up. And he said, see, your 20-year plan, this is it. And there were not many.
mm,
There were not many young people. And so it kind of got us, all of us thinking. He said, in 20 years' time, how old will you be? Like, where will your life be? So he's like, and he was talking to, a church organization. And it's like, every church needs to have some sort of 20-year projection plan, because we have a lot of churches where, I'm sorry, I'm going to go on churches now because like I'm a church girl, I grew up in church, church has been my thing. But you find pastors and leaders who have been there for years and years and years and years and years and years, and it's like, what's your progression plan? Yes, God has called you into that place, but even God calling you, he also calls you to raise others.
succession plan too.
Yeah, you've got to have something in mind. So I'm sure even God has a succession plan in mind, right?
Mhm.
So he's not just meaning that you should stay there until you die and the ministry dies because you've died.
Mm.
It doesn't make sense that way. And so we have to, like the old and the young generation, have to embrace a change that brings about greater unity. I look at it from like politics, and I'm from Uganda, so that's what I'm going to talk about, because that's what I know. Well, I know a little bit, but we have a president in Uganda who's been in power all my life,
Oh, that's a long time.
and I'm over 35.
Oh,
He's been in power literally, yeah, he came into power in the year that I was born. And it makes you think, are you trying to say that there is no other person qualified to lead the nation? We need change. And I remember one time Pastor Matthew Shimolo talking about how he was in a particular country, his country of birth, the country of my husband. Anyway, he was there, and he stumbled upon a meeting where, I think it was a political meeting where they're talking about the future of the nation. And he said literally 80% of the people in the room were above 60 years old. And it's like, how can we be talking about the future of the nation and we're talking with people who are going to probably be down under by the time this future comes? And so we have to, like the older generation, the younger generation, somehow we have to unite with this change. We have to be able to embrace change such that it doesn't kill a generation, but it allows all generations to thrive. And I think that's the key thing. And we see that a lot in churches, for example. And it's there's something, for example, that's happening now with Porter's House, Bishop T.D. Jakes, and the way that he's transitioning, the way he's handing over, and everyone's watching and they're observing and they're like, oh wow, this is different. But he's stepping aside and bringing in the young and nurturing them while he is still around.
Yeah, so like what the scripture says, like for the women, we have to be like Mary and no, like Elizabeth and Mary, you
Mhm.
know, um, nurturing the younger women to come up, and that's part. I think Elizabeth, you will agree with me that we, as even as coaching, we are nurturing the younger women to stand up to realize their dream, their purpose, their calling, and we cannot stop their growth, but no, from the back, encouraging them. But how can we do it effectively when we don't check ourselves first and see the areas that we have faltered, and
Mm,
bring those experiences to the younger ones and say, I have failed in these areas, do not make that mistake. But one of the steps that we need to do is to self reflect and self awareness. We have to examine ourselves.
mm,
We have to examine ourselves, and we are called to be, we have come to a certain age where we have garnered some very important experiences that will speak volumes, and help the younger women. Don't go there, do not go there. This mess, I have gone through this mess. Do not go there, because we can help them save time and guide them to be on the right path. Yet they can completely refuse your guidance and say, I want to do my way, the highway. you know and but you know what, we are in the position to share.
mm.
Yeah, so it's important that we tend to lead ourselves properly.
That's it. And if we are going to be successful, then self leadership is important.
Yeah.
Even like you were saying, for us as coaches, as much as yes, we're in a position where we're nurturing others, we also need to nurture ourselves, or we need to be nurtured,
Hmm.
because we also need to grow. In the things that we're going to lead people in. Like I can't come and coach somebody or even teach somebody in an area that I have no clue about. I have to expose myself a little bit at least, so I can have some exposure to it, so I can know, okay, what's my client talking about. I mean, yes, I'm not saying be an expert in everything, but I'm saying don't be a coach who doesn't read, or who doesn't learn, or who doesn't grow.
Hmm.
There's always room for improvement, there's always room to get better. So how can you better yourself? And I think self leadership opens the door for us to better ourselves. It opens the door for us to get better. And you mentioned about reflection. Like if you want to get good at anything, make time for reflection. Make time to reflect on how you performed previously. Make time, it's something that I've been talking to the ladies in the Show Up and Shine challenge, because if you want to show up better than you did last week, then pause for a moment
Let's
and
see.
do some reflection. How did I do last week? What was it about last week that I need to change? What do I need to be better at? And then make the changes
Mhm.
and then implement them this week. Then at the end of the week, do the same thing, because that's going to help us. So if you're for example, a speaker, after you've spoken, how did you do? What are the things you could improve on? Could your presentation be better? Could your delivery be better? What can be better after a coaching session? Did that coaching session go well? What can I change about my coaching style? Did my client respond? What worked? What didn't work? It's important for us to be able to reflect on all those things, for us to be better at the things that we are doing, and to be better in our own leadership, because that's part of leading. Because when you're leading, you are recognizing the people that are following you. You are taking time to recognize their strengths, recognize their weaknesses, equip them in the areas of their strengths, see how you can help them in the areas of their weaknesses. But you're also there to celebrate them along the way. Don't be a leader who never celebrates. And if you're going to celebrate others, learn to celebrate yourself. There's a lot of people who are so good at celebrating others, but they don't celebrate themselves. That's part of self leadership, is learning to celebrate you. If you're going to come and tell somebody to celebrate themselves, then you have to be celebrating yourself too. Self leadership is so important. And I think it also brings the conversation of integrity, being a person of integrity. I saw something on LinkedIn today, which was to do with um, one of the celebrities. And I will see what's her name. What's her name? It was to do with one of the celebrities, and her name is, oh, I've forgotten her name. But anyway, she's facing allegations at the moment, because people are saying that she's been fat shaming people.
Okay.
And yet, at some point, she was being held for doing all these things amazingly well. But what people didn't realize was that in her establishment, these things were going on. So it's one of those things that we have to be people of integrity. I'm trying to see if I can find the article so I can actually um, clearly say the name of the person, because I saw it on somebody's page. Um, okay, think her name is Lizzo. So she's a poster girl for body positivity, and her empowering image is now under threat, because people are saying within her establishment there's fat shaming going on. There is
Mm.
people being looked down on, people being treated a certain way.
She's
And
not authentic, you see?
And
She's
do you know what? I don't read the tab. I don't really like go on celebrity news like that. But it caught my eye. It caught
not.
my attention. And the post that this person was trying to sort of bring out was, we need to be authentic. We need to be true to ourselves, true to our values.
Mm.
And I commented on there, and I was saying that you can't say one thing or brag about one thing and be another thing.
That's right.
So if your selling point is going to be, this is who we are, then you have to be it. You have to be it. You can't just say it. You have to do it. So self leadership also helps with the conversation and integrity.
Yes, you nailed that point right. You nailed that point right. Integrity is, it's paramount. It is so vital. It is so important. No, I can't stress enough. Integrity. They will see people can sniff you out these days. Come on,
Mm,
they can sniff you out. So moving on, Elizabeth, I thought I'll share, and together let's share the keys to self leadership.
mhm,
And one of the keys that is really stressed is, as leaders, we need to learn to follow others.
Mm-hmm.
If we are good followers, then we will, those who are around us, we will lead them to follow us. This is actually like a domino effect. It's a domino effect. As you follow, you follow, you follow. I'm reminded of the song, I will follow you. you
I
know
won't lie, it came to mind.
what, sorry.
I said it came to my mind as well.
So I think as leaders, we need to learn how to submit, and we need to learn obedience, and we need to learn to be serve with a servanthood heart, a heart of servant, placing ourselves to be servants. So when we do this, and it's difficult, some areas we submission could be a issue. Some
Mm,
areas, obedience could be an issue. But you know what? Jesus taught us how to submit our lives to Him, and we need to be obedient to His what He has called us to do, and He says obedience is better than sacrifice. So learning to follow is very important for self leadership, and I know I used to struggle to submit to certain authorities who I didn't see they had added value to my life. I would challenge them, especially in the church environment, because submission could be a word control. So I would always stand against it. I hate it vehemently. If you submit to someone out of love, it's different.
mm.
That's another topic for another day. So, what do you think about learning to follow, lead by following someone? I'm sure you have your mentors, but also I think our greatest example is Jesus. Don't you think so?
Definitely, Jesus is a great example. I remember one of his statements where he says, "I will not do anything that I've not
My
seen the Father
Father.
do,"
Yeah.
and that's an example of following. And I think I said it before that even as a coach, have a mentor, have someone else that you're learning from, and submission is a very interesting conversation, and I think people can twist it in so many different ways.
Mm-mm.
But it's important that we also understand who we're submitting to, depending on the circles that we are in, and who it is that we're obeying, and what's required of us in the positions that we are in as well, because sometimes it's the position that you are in, and it demands that. But I think going on to sort of servant leadership, which was something else that you referred to as well. I think servant leadership is the best example of leadership, because a leader is in a position to serve. And I think sometimes leaders forget that they are in a position to serve. Especially for me, I look at it from a political perspective. Sometimes leaders come into power and they forget that they are there to serve the people that voted them in. They are there to serve the people that are crying out for change.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You're not there to grow your pocket. You're not there to add to your CV. No, you're not there to build a name for yourself.
True.
You are there to lead, whether it's to lead a nation, whether it's to lead a community of people. And leading them means you need to understand their pains. You need to engage with the community. You need to engage with the people. You can't look down on them. You have to be somebody that is in with the people. So like we sometimes see that a lot of people in Westminster have gone to Eton College. There's a number of them, or they've lived a kind of upper class life. But how can they lead people who are lower
Downtrodden.
class, so to speak? People who are, and that's why I think the times that we are in, you have people from different backgrounds slowly coming in. and we need to be able to embrace that kind of change.
That's why Sadiq Khan is very popular, because he came from grassroots levels, came from a poverty stricken background. So that's his story, and he relates to the people who have nothing.
Mm,
You know, it's very relational. Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you. If you sit on the top brass of life and do not know how people suffer and where the next meal is coming from, unless you put your hands to the plow, well, that's politics for you. It's all about power, power, power.
no, but no, we need people in power who understand the pain of the people.
Yes.
And I think that is one thing that, gosh, don't go there. That is one thing that, like, the nation of Uganda has struggled with, is getting someone who is more. And this is in the last election, we had a gentleman who came up from the opposition, and he was running against the president, and they called him the people's president. In fact, till today they call him the people's president, because he was connected to people in the slums,
Mm,
people on the streets. They could relate with him. They could, like, he was down with them, as opposed to the current president that we have today, who's been in power for over 35 years. So it's
so Uganda definitely needs a change.
definitely, there are
Yes.
some people who will say no, but that's because they're benefiting somehow.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But
I'm sure.
but we need, like, honestly, 35 years with the same president, and the country is not exactly a first world country. So that means we can try someone else. We can have someone else in power, see how they do.
Yeah.
Yes, Tunji, the man doesn't want to leave. You're right. But hopefully one day he will leave, and for his own good. It should hopefully be before he passes away. But it's we
Gracefully step down be- before a coup takes place.
I don't know about gracefully, because with some of the stories you hear, there's nothing about gracefully stepping down, because this is the sort of person who changes the law so that he can stand again.
Well,
So, but let's not make this a political
yes,
conversation,
it's
because
not.
I
So
leadership politics I can talk.
I'm going to bring another point across, is developing self discipline, and I struggle in certain areas. I love disciplining. Sometimes you need to follow a good pattern every day, and I'm a free spirit person, and that's not good for people who are in business. I can tell you that. Sometimes it's too free. If you have, it's like John Maxwell talks about, every day 1 hour you spend writing your journal or reading something to improve yourself. Some days I can read a book in 3 hours, and then some days I don't do anything at all, and that's not good. I'm confessing on on the air life. But you know what? I'm working on it. I'm working on it. I'm working on it. So I think developing a self-disciplinary life, it's very important. Hello, we're having the youngest member, a youngest um, what shall I say, viewer here, who wants to listen in. So yeah, self-discipline is very, very important. I think the third point I would like to bring across is being patient with ourselves. Don't beat ourselves up. It's a growth. It's a growth model, and I think we all need to give ourselves some space and some time to grow. We cannot be a instant noodled leader. Nowadays everything is instant, 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 but you know what, anything that is good takes time to grow. Don't you think so, Elizabeth? What is your thoughts about it? Patience is very.
Um, no, do you know what, patience is necessary. It's part of the process, because, like you say, everything takes time, and everything good takes time. Um, there's a there's a saying that I like to use. which is probably more common to someone who's from Uganda, but it says don't rush a Mirinda. Mirinda is a drink, and
Okay.
so take your time with it. It's, you know, it's a nice drink. Take your time with it. Basically, is what that is saying. And so growth requires time, requires patience. Leadership requires time, requires patience. You know, you can come into an organization as a leader who's been appointed. You are going to need patience because you have to find your footing. You have to find your footing. So you're going to have to be patient with the people that you are coming in to lead, and patient with yourself. You know, so that for me is yeah, because sometimes we're hard on ourselves. We're hard on ourselves, but be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself. And I like to tell people that don't don't look and say, you know, overly critique yourself. Just look back at where you were yesterday and where you are today. Have you made some progress? If you have, well done. What works for another leader might not work for you.
Mhm.
What works for someone for their self leadership might not work for you. And you have to accept that and find what works for you. Be patient with yourself. You know, when you try something new, be patient with yourself. Don't be, oh, I didn't get it the fast. Oh, I didn't. No, just be patient with yourself and take it easy. As long as you were making some steady progress, day by day after day, you're making some level of progress, then that's what you need to focus on. Am I moving forward?
Yeah.
How can I move forward? Instead of beating up yourself and being angry with yourself and you know being so frustrated with yourself, and then you take it out on others.
Yeah. You spill over. You spill when you start bleeding, you bleed into others.
Mm,
But I think taking taking stock, the progress, I think that's very important. You know, that movement of the action, the motion brings that action of progress. And I think that's something that you need to reckon with, where you were a week ago or 2 weeks ago and where are you now. I think that is something we need to celebrate.
that's it.
Celebrate, yeah. And I think one last point that I would like to share is accountability. Self leadership, you need to be accountable, because sometimes leadership can get into your head. Pride, arrogance, and those things that are very negative to our character can come across, you know, and it can mar our vision and the goal that is set before us, the race that is before us. And having someone you'll be accountable for and to keep you in check. I think that's something that's I'm very happy to have somebody I'm accountable to. And lots of us struggle with it, but I think it's a good place. What do you think?
Accountability is always good. It's always a good thing, especially if you want to grow in a particular area or if
Mhm.
you want to see change in a particular area. But you also have to embrace the accountability process,
Mhm.
because sometimes we want accountability, but we're not ready to submit to the accountability.
Yeah.
We're not ready to be held accountable. You know, and it's funny because in the show up and shine group in the challenge, one of the things I tell the ladies is I'm going to hold you accountable to show up. And so sometimes and I say this to one of the ladies, I said, I've been checking your Facebook every single day to make sure that you're showing up, and you haven't shown up. So what's going on?
Oh, oh.
So that's me. You said yes to the challenge. I said yes to holding you accountable. So I'm going to do my duty. I'm going to hold you accountable. So that's like me having a license to say what's going on.
Mhm.
So yeah, accountability is great, and it helps us to deliver, but on both parts, like, is the other person holding you accountable truly, and you know, you as the person who wants to be held accountable, are you submitting to being held accountable, or are you seeing this person calling and you ignore, or you know, seeing the messages you're ignoring? You know, you have to embrace that part of it, because accountability is not necessarily submission, but it means that you're reporting to this person.
And that's a good thing. Accountability is definitely a good thing. And I saw this quote, and it says, "When we see a good man, emulate. When we see a bad man, examine yourself."
Mm,
So it's all boils down to the fact is self leadership, self examination, self motivation, driven to be the best version of yourself, to
mm,
lead others into a place of abundance. And that's what we are called for. Elizabeth and I, we're called to bring forth the lack in certain areas and bring abundance through the process of change. With that, I think Elizabeth, as a challenge running next month, it's something to do with realizing a dream. And Elizabeth, would you like to share about it?
So this is not necessarily a challenge, but this is more a group coaching package that I'm offering to Christian women who need to get out of a place of complacency and get into a place where they're taking action, a place where they have clarity, where they have confidence, a place where they are better positioned to step into the things that God has called them to. And it's going to be starting in September, and it's for 5 weeks, and it's going to be group coaching. If you want details on that, please get in touch with me, and I will send you the details happily.
Yes. And thank you for sharing that. And at this moment, I'm doing a lot of personal coaching. So I'm happy to be in that place because personal coaching can be very challenging. And I'm glad that you're doing some group coaching. And next week, we're taking a break. I'm celebrating my 13th wedding anniversary with my husband on Tuesday. So it's going to be a time we spend together and reflect on the 13 years of not killing each other, but building each other up. Yes, so looking forward to it. And so I won't be able to come online, Elizabeth, because we're going to spend the whole day together. But I'm so happy that today we managed to come forth with self leadership with a twist, And yes, and I think it's time. We have 2 more minutes. Elizabeth, what is your last words?
My last word is, yeah, lead yourself.
Lead yourself. Yes, well said.
Don't be complacent. Don't be
Yeah,
complacent. Lead
lead
yourself.
yourself.
And
And
congratulations for next week.
yes, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. And see you next week. We will be not seeing you next week, but we will come live on the 5th of September once again, 7 o'clock,
Wait.
7 o'clock UK time, British Standard Time. Bye for now. Would you want to say bye, Janaya? You want to say bye?
I
Bye.
just have to wait.